Hello everyone, welcome to today's webinar, How to Empower Field Workers and Increase Customer Satisfaction. I'm Sarah Nicastro, Editor-in-Chief of Field Technologies, and I'll be moderating today's event. Tablet PCs have become the go-to device over the past couple of years, and the form factor still gets a lot of buzz. We see countless companies leveraging tablets and experiencing big benefits. But here's the thing, it's not just about the tablet, or any mobile device for that matter. There are a lot of other important things that go into a total mobility solution, and today we're going to talk about the overall solution and how you can use mobility to empower your workers and improve customer satisfaction. Today you're going to be hearing from Ian Martin, Director of Sales at TC Technology, Carol Rylander, Director of Outbound Marketing at Motion, and Rich Nockels, Market Development Manager at Intel. We'll hold a Q&A session after the presentations, but feel free to submit questions as we go along. We'll get to as many as possible during the Q&A, and any that we can't get to, we'll certainly follow up on after the event. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to Ian of TC Technology to begin today's session. Ian?
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Today, what we're going to be talking about is a case study, and I'm going to go through a few preliminary slides prior to talking through that customer case study. I'm going to talk about how mobile GIS is used at utility companies and what hardware considerations and software considerations go into deploying that mobile GIS solution to the field. And finally, we'll talk about an inspection and maintenance use case that has demonstrated significant customer service improvements at a customer site. So mobile GIS means the ability to distribute updated enterprise spatial asset data to field workers. So most utility companies, and I know that's not the complete audience that we have here today, but most utility companies have a GIS database that has their enterprise asset data in it, and they want to get that information out to their field crews so that those guys have access to critical infrastructure information. Having that information in front of them, those crews can then do things in the field, and that's typically system inspections, work orders, things like that. And they can get that information back into those back office systems and update the quality and the efficiency of those systems. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, is how updating a GIS database through the use of system inspections is going to help improve the quality of an outage management system solution and how that impacts customers. So talking about hardware considerations next. There are a few things to think about when you're deploying a solution out to the field. You've got to figure out what kind of device you want to put that solution on. And there are a variety of different form factors that you can send out. And you've got these big ruggedized computers that can be very cumbersome, very heavy, stop a bullet type size. And those typically meet or exceed IT system requirements, and so they are useful, but a lot of times they're not really easy for folks to get out of a vehicle and walk up to a pole or a transformer and take a look at things. And then you also have on the other end of the spectrum things that are too small. So this is things that are could be the consumer grade tablets that you see on the TV when you're watching on the weekend. And those are affordable, surely, and a lot of times they do run Windows or can run other enterprise class solutions, but they're not durable, and they typically are very hard to read in the field when there's a lot of sunlight. And sometimes they don't necessarily meet those IT system requirements completely. So then we come to the just right. That's what we're talking about today with with this Motion tablet is this mid-range ruggedized machine. The thing about it is that it's lightweight. You can hot swap batteries while you're out in the field and not lose the state of the application. It's very durable. You can drop them. The glass is easy to see in sunlight. They're more expensive than those standard consumer-grade tablets, but less expensive typically than those ruggedized tablets. And in the case of, as is the case with those ruggedized tablets, they do meet those IT system requirements. So what about software considerations? Well, when it comes to the software, and you've got your just right, computer that you've got out there, you've got to have software that's also easy to use. So it needs to be intuitive. The idea behind the software is that it's just another tool for the folks in the field. It's not the reason that they're in the field. The reason they're in the field is to restore power or complete a work order or perform a system inspection. So the software has to support that. And the way that it does that is through making the solution seamless, automated, responsive, and in the case of the solutions that you're putting out there, they have to be tailored to the work that the field users are doing, so configurable and customizable. And it has to support all of the enterprise data that's available. So you need to be able to take out very large data sets and imagery and documents and those sorts of things. And the solution in total has to be versatile so it can be used for other business applications. And specifically in the case of what we're talking about today, we're going to be talking about a GPS-enabled solution that allows the field workers to automatically perform their system inspections based on proximity to a pole. So with that, we'll talk about the inspection and maintenance use case. This is a use case for SMECO, which is Southern Maryland Electric Cooperative. They've been using this solution for a couple of years now. And the reason that they came to us and asked us to help automate a solution for them was that they were having problems with their outages hitting their Public Service Commission reports. And the issue was that those outages hit those reports regardless whether they're real or not. And there's a lot of reasons why an outage could be reported as an outage even if it's not an outage. For instance, you can have customers that are on the wrong phase. You can have fuses that are missing, and so your network model is not segmented properly. And that OMS model is driven by the quality of your GIS model. So you manage your system in your GIS, and then you export that so that you can use it in your OMS. And if the quality of the information is not up to snuff, if it doesn't reflect what's actually happening in the field, then you can get a lot of false outage reports, and then that inflates the outage numbers that you have to report to the Public Service Commission. So the goal was to get these as-built conditions updated and get rid of that incorrect information that hampers those outage restoration efforts and inflates those outage numbers. So the previous process was antiquated. It was based on paper forms and interoffice mail, and there was no mapping associated with it. You'd write something down on a sheet of paper and hand it off to somebody else, and it might eventually get updated. It wasn't auditable. There was no record trail. You couldn't track down what somebody else had done and when they'd done it and whether or not the correction had been made to the system. And typically because of that, because of those gaps, you had missing information, and that wasn't a complete closed process. So the solution was to come up with an automated GPS-enabled system inspection solution. And the way that that was implemented was using a TC Technologies MIMS Field product. It has a patrol inspection capability, which allows you to drive around, and as you drive around, you're automatically selecting poles. And the goal was to record defect conditions at every pole. In the past, the system inspections were done, and you'd go out looking for specific things. And so you'd have somebody going out and looking at insulators one day. They weren't looking at everything. So the goal here was to record defect conditions, any defect conditions, at every pole throughout the system. And then, based on the condition that's recorded, you'd automatically create maintenance jobs. So if you note that something's wrong, you automatically create a job to correct that problem. And if you don't see any problems, then you drive right on past the pole, and it's noted as being visited, and so you have that audit trail that says, I've conducted an inspection along this circuit, and I found issues at 300 poles, and I've found no issues at the other 1,200 poles that are on that circuit, and automatically create maintenance jobs for every single one of those problems. And those problems could vary. They could be anything. They could be cross arms, insulators, anchors, wire problems, things like that. And then the other thing that could happen is that while the folks are in the field, they can automatically initiate engineering work requests. So if you see a problem with a pole that's leaning, for instance, then you could initiate an engineering work request to have that pole replaced. So the solution is automated based on GPS-enabled technology in a software solution. And so what happened? You automated a process that was manual. You have the ability to create jobs in the field. You have the ability to initiate work requests. You've created an auditable system. So instead of having no audit trail, you've created a comprehensive records trail. You've got information about who visited a pole, when they visited it, and what they found. And that goes from the field to the office and back. And that means that that you can create reports that you send to the Public Service Commission and that you use internally. And what that means, too, with this end-to-end solution is that you've increased the accuracy of your GIS system, and you're going to overall save time. So here's an example of what the system inspection solution looks like. This is just a form that indicates what the folks are looking at when they go to the pole. And you can see that on the right-hand side of the screen, there's quite a lot of requests for information. And this is an example of creating a work request. So you can see that this has to do with equipment replacements. So anything that would put load on the pole or require that you have to reset a pole, you'd set an engineering work request in so that could be reviewed by the engineering staff before a construction order is sent out. But all of this is conducted at the same time. So finally, what we end up with after revising that antiquated process and putting in a solution that's automated is that you've conducted tens of thousands of system inspections. So this has essentially gone through every single pole in SMECO's service territory. They've visited every single one of them, and they've recorded all those results. Sometimes they find defects, other times they don't. 3,000 plus maintenance actions were initiated, and that resulted in a corresponding number of GIS data corrections. So there were hundreds of fuses that were replaced that helped to segment the network. And there were over 2,000 phasing data corrections, so making sure that customers and taps are on the right phase. And the result of that, then, is that your SAFE number, which is your system average interruption frequency index, which is an industry index for the duration of outages, is trending towards, for the frequency of outages, I was getting that one confused, is trending towards 1. So that's basically saying that an average customer in SMECO's service territory can expect to encounter or experience 1 outage per year, and that's a really good number. And what's happening then is that with these more accurate outage numbers, the number of customers that are out per incident, you're able to see that SAFE number trend down. And here's an example of a graph that represents that. The purple line, which is the bottom line of that graph, indicates the SAFE number that SMECO achieved in 2013, which roughly corresponds with the time that they started doing all of these system inspections. And that doesn't necessarily mean that there's causation there, but there's certainly some correlation. And the number of inspections and changes that you make to your system to improve the quality of that data are always going to mean that you're going to have a better SAFE number overall. So again, the benefits of implementing an inspection solution that helps you to increase the quality of your GIS and OMS data is that you're able to boost your operational efficiency. You can do more inspections in less time. You can improve your system reliability, so you know where your network segmented. You have your fuses on the right phase, and you know where they are. And because of that, then you can reduce the number of reported outages that happen. So when you find an outage and you apply that in your OMS system, it's going to affect fewer customers. And the result of that is that you've improved your customer service. You're reducing the amount of time that a customer is out of power, and you're also reducing the number of incidents that they may experience in any given year. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Carol, and we'll continue the presentation from there.
Thanks, Ian. That was a great illustration of how to really increase your efficiencies when you're really out in the field on the job. What differentiates Motion from the many other tablet offerings today is our 12 years plus experience in studying workers such as what TC Technologies illustrated, who needs to stand, walk, or be in a vehicle while computing. As you view the various usage scenarios depicted here, you get a feel for the vast array of efficiencies and flexibility you can expect when you're choosing a mobile workflow. And when it comes to enterprise-level support, you can rest assured that our Motion offering are developed with the latest Intel processors to provide you security and power to get even the most demanding jobs done. And with that, I will pass to our Intel colleague.
Great. Thanks, Carol. So let's take a look at really how Intel comes into play here. So Motion has based their tablet solutions and their portable and mobile solutions based on Intel's 4th-gen core processors. We launched those last September, both consumer and business both. And so you can see from a business perspective the areas that we're focused on. So a lot these days has to go with the form factors that the variety of OEMs use, such as Motion. So want to make sure they're thinner, lighter, more robust, as well as longer battery life. You're also going to see Intel really tie in a lower level of security within all our chipsets and technology platforms that we have. Since acquiring McAfee, I think roughly around 4 years ago. So we're going to be going at a much, at a much lower level, at a hardware level, to protect against various types of malware and malicious code that can be launched and be part of your system. We're also going to be looking at the end user. So not only is this, this is important for a lot of the users on the phone from an IT perspective, but also for end user experience. How can we make sure that newer technologies give them the user experience they want, with getting rid of cords, longer battery lives? I'm going to touch on some of the other technologies as well. And then the last one is really key. So this is where Intel's VPro technology comes into play. So with 4th Gen Core, Motion has incorporated our VPro technology. And really what that does simply is allow you to remotely manage and secure those mobile devices, even if the OS is off, inoperable, or the laptop or portable device is powered off. So that's really the key thing. So typically for those of you in IT and even for end users, if you have a device that goes blue screen on you or locks up, IT really can't get to that, because the software or the models and solutions that they use today are based on software. So if the OS isn't up and running, they're unable to remotely manage that. So that means you're either going to have to bring it in, you're going to have to ship it in, or they're going to have to send IT out to the field to fix that mobile device, which has a great big impact not only on IT support costs, but from your customer's perspective as well. Okay, so if you buy the Motion products with the VPro technology in it, you are able to get to that remote management level. One of the examples that really hangs true is that IT is actually able to remotely get to the BIOS and make changes there as well. They can manage, they can fix, they can boot off another ISO drive. So it gives you that security. Make sure that your end users are up. Make sure that they have the right security software in place so that your customers have the experience that they're expecting. Okay, so that's all kind of wrapped around Intel's 4th Gen Core processor. So if you buy the VPro brand that Motion has incorporated, you get all of that remote manageability. Okay, so let's take a look then. So as I mentioned, tying in McAfee. So we're starting to go at a much lower level below the OS, and a much lower level from a hardware perspective, of making sure that we catch those malicious attacks, malicious code at the very lowest level. So tying in McAfee allows us to do that. They have their Deep Defender, Deep Command products. We're also tying in Intel solid-state drives. So you can see there's going to be a continuous focus around security and getting at a much lower level, so that as the codes get more tricky and crafty and hide better, we're able to catch those before they really have some impact on the end user. Okay, so let's take a real quick. I'm going to quickly go over these. I'm going to turn it back over to IMotion, but there's a few things that we're working on that are really cool features. First one being with Cisco, working with Cisco on a passwordless VPN. Okay, so basically allowing your users not to have to use a password when logging in remotely and using a VPN. We also have this technology called Location-Based Services. So that allows users with the VPro platform that Motion has incorporated, allow you to find within a building, find where printers are, find where tools are, and basically allows you to self-map itself. Okay, so another technology that we're bringing on. And the last one there is Intel Pro WiDi. So WiDi basically allows you to go point-to-point between your laptop or mobile device and a monitor, projector, and being able to extend your screen remotely to that projector or monitor. Okay, so whereas a lot of solutions they use a Wi-Fi network, this actually goes point-to-point. Not only can you duplicate your screen, but you can extend your screen over all with cutting the wires, getting the full 5.1 sound, as well as the high-def graphics as well. So I'll touch into a bit more of these a little bit later. So now I'm going to turn it back over to Carol. She's going to talk a little bit more on the motion solution, and I'll be back a little bit later. So Carol, turning it back over to you.
Thanks. What I'm showing here is that it's so important to have an understanding of your everyday workflow requirements and pain points. So what we do at Motion is we go through your design needs and how your workers work in the daily routines. We don't expect you to change your day to fit the hardware requirements. So here is an example of what we call a day in the life of scenario to give you a feel for how we design our workflow portfolio of products. We consider your requirements, and then we ensure that we have the solutions to keep you productive throughout every step of your day. Notice the thoughtful integration of your needs as you move from the office to your vehicles and out to the field. Okay, Rich?
Great. So now let's go a little bit deeper into these technologies I mentioned before. So the first one is password-free VPN. So we're currently using this internally within Intel, and it works great. So getting rid of passwords really is a value add from a user's perspective, but we want to make sure also that it handles it from a security perspective as well. So what we have actually done by working with the Intel wireless chips and Cisco as well, it authenticates the machine, saying, hey, I know this is an Intel device. It's the machine that we know and is trusted, and with the combination of your Windows hardened password, you're able to get in and create a tunnel without having to do VPN. So I currently use it. It works great. Automatic connection. It just really allows just one less password for users to remember, especially if they don't use VPNs all the time, so they would have tendency to forget it. So now you're having to do support calls, or they're having to go track down the passwords and things like that. So it definitely can impact productivity, especially for those people who are remote, and those mainly are the ones that are going to be using the VPN tunnels. So kind of really touching again, so this kind of shows what I mentioned before about Intel Pro WiDi, allowing you to display without wires for sound, video both, from your PC and the motion device directly to a monitor, to a TV screen, to a projector. We've seen a lot of this uptake on the consumer side, and very, very impactful from a business perspective as well. So we had a lot of requests on, hey, can we have this in business? So we've launched a pro version of that with a little bit tighter security, so to make sure there's no one looking in on presentations from room to room. So we harden it from that perspective. So really nice feature. So again, buy to the VPro, buy to the Motion platform and mobile device, and you'll have these features built in. So touching on the location-based services, we're really seeing this being impactful for large campuses where there's maybe a lot of different devices, printers, also from field workers and from even within like hospitals and education where they're looking for actual tools that are being used, so they can track those down, find out where they're at, find out where different machines are. So ability to use your PC to actively find your way around. So you're going to see more of that coming in the future, and we have launched it with our 4th Gen core as well. Okay. So now I want to touch on real quick around the VPro platform and really some of the advantages. And so the question we get a lot is, what's the impact of going to 4th Gen core? Can't we go to just keep on old stuff? So it's really key, and Motion has taken advantage of this. As you see down in the lower left-hand corner, you get a 3x longer battery life as compared to a 2nd Gen core. You get the faster boot up times, and you get the faster weight. So users, one of the biggest things, obviously, besides size and weight, is that battery life. So you can see the impact of going to a 4th Gen core on the battery life, as well as the overall performance as well. So there are great benefits to moving on to 4th Gen core. Motion has a product portfolio based on that. So really take a look at that as something to really improve your workers' performance, both in the field and in the office both. Okay, so that's really it from an Intel perspective. I want to turn it back to Motion. They can finish up, and then I think we're going to end out with your questions as well. So passing it on.
Thanks, Rich. One additional point I would like to bring up is that mobility is about much more than just the tablet. When we work with our customers, our focus on the full solution, the unique, thoughtful peripherals created specifically with our users in mind, and how we can make their day easier. In each of the usage scenarios seen here, you see the versatility of the Motion portfolio in harsh environments, including full sunlight, yet again demonstrating the need for a rugged device that's purposefully built for utility environments. And here, what I'm just demonstrating here is the full portfolio of Motion's offering, much more beyond the tablet. We look at your needs as you go to your vehicle. Of course, you need software partners such as TC Technologies. You need installations. We have installation providers throughout the country. We make the mounts. We have the vehicle docks. And we even have connectivity offerings and our newest offering called LinkWorks. So that kind of rounds out the Motion portfolio of this presentation. And I think now do we go back to Sarah?
Absolutely. Thank you, Carol. Good. So thank you all for the presentations. And now we're at the point where we are going to start getting through some questions. So I want to go through a few that we have here, and some I have of my own, and then we'll also be answering questions from the audience. So feel free to type those in now. So Ian, I want to go back to you because there's some questions specific to your presentation here, so we'll kind of go back and go in order here. And the first question says, what impact have the system improvements had on the safety numbers?
Okay. The system improvements have had a direct correlation to the improved safety, and again, that's for folks that don't know that's the System Average Interruption Frequency Index. But those safety numbers are more often and to a greater degree affected by the frequency and severity of weather events. So there is definitely a benefit to doing the system improvements, and those are always going to help. But safety is more directly impacted by weather.
Okay, perfect. And so the next question here, let's see here. So it says, is the inspection and maintenance program responsible for the downward trend in the safety?
Not directly. What the system improvements are doing is they're giving you a more accurate outage number. So you can't control what the weather will do, but by correcting your GIS and therefore your OMS, you can eliminate those false outages.
Okay. Great. So, Rich, coming over to you, there's a question here. Can I upgrade older VPro PCs or laptops with newer VPro features?
Yeah, so that's a pretty common question. So the answer is no, because it's at a hardware level. So each time we come up with a new generation, any of the new additions that we add are at a hardware level, so you can't go back and make those changes. But the core of the VPro, the management features and the security features that were launched when we first launched the VPro, continue all the way through. So those core features that most people value, most IT shops value, are continued all the way through. But you can't actually retroactively go and upgrade.
Okay. And there's a kind of a follow-up question to that here that is asking, where can I get more detailed information on the VPro software and the initial setup process for that?
Yep, so that's a great question. So we have a lot of customers ask us about what we do internally with IT and with especially managing mobile devices with VPro. So if basically, if you can just Google search or whatever search engine you use for Intel IT Center, that's Intel IT Center, and there you'll be able to see all of the projects and visions and roadmaps from our own IT shop. It's not a sales and marketing pitch, but just gives you insight to what type of new things are we working on from an IT perspective, both server and mobile both, bring your own device to work, how we manage the mobile devices, how we use VPro. So if you just go to Intel IT Center, it's a great spot to see what we've been working on, where we've had issues, and where we've had success as well. So it's a good spot for that.
Okay, great. Carol, there's a question here specific to the device side, and it's asking for more information on mid-sized tablets that you would recommend to field service personnel. So can you give a little bit of insight on that?
Certainly. We do have a full portfolio of products, and what we would want to do is just really assess what are your workflow requirements, because we have different products. We have larger screen size, for example. In one of our products, we have a 12.5-inch screen if you needed to have the screen size to do your modeling out in the field. But what we do find, most of the utility customers we have, I believe you saw a unit that had a handle on it. It's got the integrated RFID if you need to scan the poles. It has the GPS capabilities, so you can know location by location where your inspections are. We have the mounts for it for your vehicle. So without knowing your exact implementation, I think I can assure you we probably have an offering for you, since all our tablets are rugged and enabled with basically the same features, but it depends. The size of the screen does vary.
Okay, great. So I have a question here that I'll just pose to any of you that would like to give some insight. But I wanted to ask for the audience that's listening, what is the biggest consideration to keep in mind when first deciding to deploy a mobile solution?
I'll maybe start, and probably Ian should finish. I mean, what we usually do is just assess, what are their paper processes now, and look at ways to make it more efficient in the field, and look at ways you can automate each step of the way with efficiencies, and look at areas where you're seeing lots of data errors, inaccuracies, and that's easily rectified by going mobile. Also, an area is just ensuring that you know exactly where each inspection's made with your GPS location services. It's also efficiencies in your workforce. You know when they're working, when they're not. You know where they're going. There's just a way to look at usage scenarios and try to implement mobility where they're already working in place. And Ann, I'm sure you've got other examples with your technology.
Yeah, and that's typical, is going in and doing business process consulting and looking at the process that's in place, and typically you're going and converting something that is a non-automated paper process, and you're looking for ways that you can automate that solution. A lot of companies have put some sort of automation in place, in years past. So you may be looking at changing a legacy process as well. It typically boils down to taking a look at the solution and how it's going to fit the needs of the customer, and making sure that at the end of the day you've got something that's intuitive, because if it's not, it's not going to get used.
Okay, great. So kind of a follow-up question to that for whoever would like to answer. One of the things that our readers, our audience, likes to hear about is, things that come up with their peers' deployments so that they can, avoid missteps or mistakes that others have made and just learn from what others are doing. So I was curious, what's the most common mistake, you guys see your customers making with their mobile deployments, and what advice would you have on how to avoid doing that?
Well, this is Motion. We do see lots of people trying to force fit consumer devices in their environment, trying to make that work. Maybe just putting a rugged case on one of the many. There's so many consumer devices, and people are familiar with those in their personal lives, and trying to bring those out. And when you look at the cost of ownership, the initial cost of those devices is so much lower, but after you consider the cost of the case, the breakage, the fact you can't see it in sunlight, there's a myriad of security issues that are really concerning, and I think, our Intel platform that Rich mentioned really addresses that.
So Carol, maybe I can add on this. So from an Intel perspective, so we've seen businesses try to bring in those consumer devices, for one, because of the price point, right, which makes sense. Everyone's trying to cut back on IT costs. But what they don't know is there are a few things, right, is some of the Intel or the internal wireless components and other components that OEMs like Motion has brought in are at a business class level, meaning they're used to dealing with jumping from multiple hotspot to hotspot, whereas in the consumer devices, they're meant, and their antennas and their designs are designed around, when you're pretty stagnant, you're sitting in front of one access point, not moving around to various access points. So some of those behind-the-scenes things are kind of what we see bite IT shops, especially when they use consumer devices. So that's what we've been seeing.
Okay, great. Anything else to add on that topic? Okay. So, Ian, there was a question that came in asking, is the TC Technology mobile solution a disconnected solution, meaning can it be used and edited without network connectivity?
Yes. So the answer is yes. And what we typically refer to the solution as is occasionally connected. So when, like Richard was just talking about, when you do have connectivity and when you are jumping around between different access points, you invariably lose connectivity. And so you have the ability when you're in a spot where you're in a dead zone or you just don't have connectivity to continue working. But as soon as you do get connected again, it will pick right back up. It stores and forwards everything for you, and then it automatically reconnects and sends on information and pulls anything that it needs from the server.
Okay, good. Sorry, there's a question here asking basically from a small to mid-sized business perspective. So how do the opportunities or challenges with mobility differ for a small organization versus what they would be for a large organization, and what advice would you have specifically for an SMB type of business?
Well, from our perspective, I think many of the issues are the same. But for a smaller business, the efficiency and productivity is even more important. You want to get the most bang for your buck as you put together a workflow model. So we work even more, closely to help them, maybe some best practices from other of our customers that we've seen that really help them be more efficient in their workflows. And then we offer the whole array of what they would need to get them, from their office out in the field being productive. Ian, do you have anything to offer from your technology?
Yeah, I think the important thing is that these solutions benefit every company. It's not just large companies that are looking to improve operational efficiency. And so the goal there is to put together solutions that are affordable, first of all, but that and like to the point that Carol was making, that you are demonstrating some significant return on that capital investment for those smaller companies. That initial rollout represents a bigger capital investment proportionally to them. So it's important to go in and make sure that when you're doing these or proposing these solutions, that you get a great understanding up front about what it is that the goals of the project are, so that you can hit every single one of those requirements and ensure that the customer is getting exactly what they need from the solution. So it's very important to go in and build a good design, understand requirements, build a good design, so that you can deliver on the promises of the technology, both from the hardware and the software standpoint, and make sure that the customer is going to get a return on that investment. Again, like I said earlier, if the solution is not intuitive, and if it's not simple, and if it doesn't get the job done, it's not going to get used, and then it's just a doorstop. So you have to avoid those traps.
Okay, good. Great. Well, I think that's all we have for today. So thank you very much to Ian, Carol, and Rich for the information and for the presentations. Thank you also to the audience. We really appreciate your time and you joining us today. We hope you have a great day.